Hello Africa, how you doing? And welcome for the first time ever. I'm going to be streaming from Kigali, Rwanda. Look at this beautiful place.
Amazing.
Amazing, and
Amazing.
we really want to bring to you the forefront some of the most amazing observations we've had on this trip to Rwanda. We want to talk about the economic opportunities we've observed, and to do that I thought nothing better but to take a different perspective and a different lens at looking at Africa from the outside looking in. So I brought in Ousman Jobe. Welcome.
It's a pleasure to be here, Stuart.
Welcome, welcome. So where are you based?
I'm based out of Washington, D.C.,
Yeah.
but I travel the world, and for opportunities like this, I could not pass up to come here.
Excellent. So I'm going to be tapping into some of the immediate observations you've had about this country,
Yes.
some of the immediate opportunities that you've seen, and then try and play back some of the conversations that you've had while you've been here.
Okay.
Excellent. And if you're just joining the stream, we're talking Rwanda and we're talking about the new economic opportunities that are currently in this country. But before we get started, and as I let people join, I see a lot of people joining in. We got well over 50 people online already. This is great. Keep on joining. If you got questions, put them into the chat box. Ousman,
Yes.
what are you super passionate about that's not on your LinkedIn profile? That helps the world know a little bit more about you.
So my favorite soccer team in the world
Yeah.
happens to be Arsenal.
Oh,
and
no.
I said soccer for my friends. Yes, thank you very much. We all know it's not your favorite soccer team, but that's okay.
Yeah.
I can't wait for the Premier League to start. Arsenal looked like they were going to have a not amazing year,
Yeah.
but with 45 million pounds, they managed to get some stellar talent. And I can't wait to see what transpires this year.
Wow, wow. All right, not my favorite team, but not everybody's cup of tea, but that's okay. You talked about talent, which is just the topic I really wanted to start about. And in this visit, you've managed to meet up with some universities and interact with students, faculty heads, etc. General comment on talent that you've observed here. What's that?
It's unbelievable the quality of talent that is here. And I think a couple of things that stood out to me. First was just the entrepreneurial spirit.
Right.
It was amazing that at the universities, when we had conversations with some of these students, at the beginning of the conversation, as we were talking about how to create opportunity and use technology to do that, this one young man was in the front row,
Yeah.
and he'd forgotten how to log into our platform.
Yeah.
I helped him log in. As we talked more about the opportunity that he could leverage, you could see the eyes and the light bulbs start taking on. And he went from somebody who didn't know how to log into the platform to somebody who associated that he is a side journalist who has a YouTube channel, and how he could leverage that channel to pursue his passion, which was to become a Big Four auditor.
Wow.
And that was an example of just many, many conversations we've had where people are starting to connect the dots
Yeah.
in a very powerful way. So, first observation, I'd say.
First observation around talent. The rest of Africa and probably the globe at large is talking about the fourth industrial revolution.
Yeah.
What observations have you seen while you've been here around getting those skills, growing those skills, or importing those skills?
I think two things that I keep on hearing is about this talent is really hard to find.
Yeah.
There are limited talent pools of, let's say, software engineers
Right.
that people can poach from. And there's a two-pronged strategy that I think works well in Rwanda that could be a model for other places.
Okay,
You
tell
have
me.
to build and you have to buy.
You have to build.
And you have to buy.
All right.
Buying simply means that if you want software engineers, because you cannot release new product, you cannot enter new markets without these software engineers, you have to go out and get the best software engineer you can.
Right.
That means that sometimes you have to use agencies. That means sometimes you have to invest in talent from the diaspora, or maybe invest in talent that would never ever consider your country.
Yeah.
But it's expensive.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The other aspect is some of these students we talked about and we met yesterday, very talented, very smart, but they don't have the skills yet. So you have to invest at the same time. And that is a theme no matter which organization we were in, whether it was university, whether it was an organization, private organization, or whether it was the government, very clear that you have to be able to do both to be successful.
Yeah. Yeah. You talked about the whole concept of buying talent and bringing it into the country.
Yeah.
What's the long-term sustainability for that? What's the plan around that you've observed in your conversations, whether it's with public sector, with the academia, with the enterprises?
I think observed a couple things, and if I look at the different segments we look at, let me break them down into three.
Okay, three segments.
Three segments. The first one is universities.
Yeah.
Second one is private enterprises, and third one is, let's just call it government for
Yeah.
better and sense of purposes. I would say if we look at universities,
Right.
there is no question that universities here are trying to figure out what does the future look like? What skills do I need to prepare these able and talented individuals to
Right.
be able to capture? And being able to have a crystal ball that says, well, if we focus on financial analysis, if we focus on ICT skills,
Right.
if we focus on these different things, that's who these employers want to hire. And the universities are crystal clear that they need that. The
Right.
challenge is they don't know where to find it.
Yeah.
And that data is not always reliable. For organizations, private enterprises,
Right.
people have big goals over here. So we talk about the digital revolution. There are many organizations we talk to
Yeah.
that said, we have these massive growth goals.
Yeah.
And we're talking about not 2x, not 50% growth. We're talking about 5x growth. And to 5x growth, you have to basically jump out of a plane and
Right.
build a parachute as you're flying.
I love that. Jump out of the plane as you build out that parachute.
As you build out that parachute.
Right.
So what these organizations are figuring out is they too need data. They too need to understand accurately how many of these individuals, let's say you're a pricing analyst,
Right.
how many of them are actually available here? How many of them are available in neighboring countries?
Right.
And then what do I do to attract those people? It is not clear.
Yeah.
And then you have all these jobs that they're looking for, yet they can't seem to find the best way to get in front of the talent.
Right.
So the government piece is the last piece. From a macroeconomic perspective, I've met some really involved stakeholders in government. And
Right.
Government can be a dirty word in some countries.
Yeah.
What I noticed here is that there is a partnership where every one of these constituencies realizes they can't do it alone.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Business knows they need government to create an environment like this, where you and I can come, be in front of the convention center, and be able to express ideas.
Right.
Government realizes that business needs to be free and unrestricted, and they need to help drive some of this because business can't do it on its own.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
yeah.
universities fully understand that talent pools they have now, how do they help them gain that critical knowledge? How do they help them build to where they want to be?
Yeah.
And all those three are playing with each other in a very nimble way that I haven't seen in many other countries. The last thing I will say about the Industrial Revolution, when organizations go on and embark on journeys like this,
Yeah.
we're talking about hypergrowth, they tend to think about who's around them.
Yeah.
Who are their peers? Who are their neighbors? If I can do a little bit better than the country next door, I feel better about myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's very different about this particular economy, they don't compare themselves to their next door neighbors. They want to be the best in the world.
Hold on
And
a second. Not the best in Africa.
Not the best in Africa.
Not the best in East Africa.
Not the best in East Africa.
but the best in the world.
The best in the world.
Big, audacious, hairy goals.
Ugly.
And this is coming top down.
Top down and is permeated from execs to students. This is not about playing small.
Yeah.
If you play small in this world, you're not going to win. And I think people here are very clear that you aim to play big.
Wow. Wow. Really blow me away with some of those key observations. And you talk a bit about the student community, etc. What's the learning appetite? What have you observed?
It's unbelievable. So I think students here understand that they don't have the skill sets that they need to be able
Right.
to go out there. The very first thing that the students will tell you when you meet them, what do you want to do? Well, I want jobs. I want access. I want to know where these opportunities are.
Right.
And they are very willing to go out and apply for every single job that they think that they could be a fit for, whether
Right.
it fits or not. I think part of the conversations we had is it's not just about applying to a job, it's about leveraging your network.
Yeah.
It's about understanding the gaps that you have. And the appetite to close those gaps is humongous. Because
Right.
they understand that in order to be able to grow, they need tools, they need knowledge, and they need access to that knowledge
Immediately.
because these opportunities are going to pass them by
Yeah.
if they don't do that and go to individuals who maybe already have the knowledge but are interested in transferring that knowledge back to
Back.
students.
All right. You talk about students. The number one message I hear from the student community is jobs, 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 jobs. Where are the jobs?
Yeah, yeah.
But at the same time, meeting with the enterprise business here, I'm hearing we're hiring, we're hiring, we're hiring, we're hiring. How do we bridge the gap between these people that are looking for jobs and these companies that are desperately trying to hire people? How do you make these two meet?
I'm biased in my answer.
Okay, you're gonna be biased, but it's okay. Go ahead.
I started working with technology 9 years ago because what I thought technology could do
Right.
is remove friction. Right? So from a student perspective, there's friction in the sense that I have these skills,
Right.
but I'm not able to tell my story. So yesterday when we met with one of these universities, I asked these students, how many of you guys have a CV, as they call resumes in this part of the world, right?
Yeah.
Every hand went up.
Yeah.
When I asked them the same question in terms of how many of you guys have taken onto social media to build a profile by which recruiters can come find you,
Right.
10% of the room raised their hand.
Okay.
So already there's a disconnect.
There's a disconnect there.
They have the skills, they probably could do some of these jobs or have the potential to do them, but there's not an easy way for these employers to find these people.
Exactly. There's a gap right
There's
there.
a gap right there.
Yeah.
On the flip side, for these employers, when they're coming out and they're looking to hire someone, and let's say they're rolling out an ERP system,
Right. Right.
Very challenging, very complex. They don't have the time to go out and chase every single CV.
That's right.
They're getting garbage CVs of people who just want to apply because they want to come into the organization. That creates a lot of noise in the system. And then what do? The best knee-jerk reaction. You go out and you pay a lot of money to hire someone who probably is right over there on the other side of town, who somebody might know at your organization. But the friction can be alleviated by basically giving transparency into who is great talent, how do I get that talent, and on the other side, these employers need to tell a story.
Yeah. There's a need to tell your story.
A very clear, distinctive, why am I different from these other employers?
Why should you consider working for me? What's my
Exactly.
culture? What's my
Exactly.
values?
Exactly.
And more importantly, I think from the conversations I saw with the students is, what is my opportunity to do meaningful work?
Yes.
To have impact?
Yes.
To actually change my society?
Yes.
That's a kind of a recurrent theme that we heard.
It's funny, as we had these conversations with employers, yesterday there was a financial institution who at the beginning of the conversation, we were just trying to explain, what do we see in the market? What do we see as trends? And as the conversation started, we were sharing stories across different parts of Africa in terms of, hey, these banks are doing something really innovative, right?
Right.
In this particular country, for example, these banks are not just telling the story of why it's great to work there, they're telling the story of why it's great for an engineer to come work at this bank. Because a lot of banks are going through this, two words, digital transformation.
Right.
What does that mean?
Right.
It means I don't have the skills necessary to do that right now. But the world is going digital. Right?
Yeah.
We're getting mobile money. We're getting all these different skills that I don't have in this organization.
Right.
And where the dots started to connect was I could not tell the same story to someone who I'm going to hire to go do sales or business development as an engineer.
Yeah.
The engineers don't care about bigger revenue goals.
Yeah.
What they do care about is, how do I work with someone who is smarter than me? How do I work on big, audacious, hairy goals that I'm gonna figure out, and I'm gonna be able to challenge myself and challenge the world to be able to get there? Two
Yeah.
very different stories.
Two different stories, yeah,
Yes.
for different communities.
Exactly.
You just touched on a word that we've heard consistently on this trip. Digital transformation, digital transformation, digital transformation. We've heard that across from government, we've heard that all the way down to private sector, we've heard it also in the academia. So it seems to be a recurrent theme in terms of the mindset. And once you get the mindset right, it's a lot easier for you to achieve some of those goals.
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, if you're online, thank you for joining us. We're streaming live for the first time ever in Kigali, Rwanda. It's been an amazing week of a listening tour, getting to understand some of the economic opportunities that are out here. We have observed economic opportunities in the terms of jobs, in terms of partnerships, and also in terms of growth that is available out here, because there's a pool of talent and there's a pool of consumers we're just ready to get going on this.
That's right.
We've talked about the fourth industrial revolution. We've talked about the learning appetite that we've observed out here. We've talked about something totally unique that we've observed, which is a combination of public and private sector and academia all coming together to achieve a single goal. I've got Ousman here, who I'm interviewing. If you're online, ask the questions, because I've got the laptop right here, and I'll be able to ask Ousman some of the questions that you have as we're streaming. Let me go on to the next one. Diaspora, right?
Yes.
Yeah, this is something else that threw me off. The number of times I kept hearing the word diaspora. Talk to me about that. What have you observed?
It is going to be a huge part of whether this country or any country in Africa for that matter is going to be successful. So we talk about the brain drain. Right? The brain drain is huge. The brain drain is very real. What we see these constituents doing, again, governments, employers, and let's call them students again. Right?
Students, yeah.
For governments, the big understanding that they need to have is we have people who are from this country who've gone out and acquired massive skills that we need to bring back.
Yeah.
And we want that back because these are going to be the best ambassadors to help us get foreign direct investment because they have family and they live here.
Right.
But the challenge is, where are they? Who are they? Where do they look for? And how can we build a community that they're comfortable joining?
Okay.
Right? Challenge number one.
Challenge number one.
On the university side, we visited some of the largest universities this country has.
Yeah.
And some of the numbers were staggering in terms of alumni, right? In the hundreds of thousands. Where are those alumni?
Yeah.
How can a current student, third problem,
Right.
figure out, well, if I go to this institution of higher learning,
Right.
where can I be 5, 10, 15 years from now? When I'm trying to get a job at a hot technology company that's here, wouldn't it be nice if I could find somebody who's already done this or
Yeah.
been abroad to come back? And on the flip side for diaspora, what's really interesting is the stories that are being told about Africa are challenging.
Yeah.
If I live in diaspora, I have a comfortable life, I get paid what I get paid, I have these luxuries, but there's a part of you that doesn't belong there, there's a part that doesn't belong here. But the challenge comes when you're over there, how are you clear about what opportunities exist here?
Yeah.
How are you clear about how you're gonna build and make a bigger impact and be part of this vision from there, if you want, or from here? And I'm starting to notice that the unique thing that ties all this together, accurate data,
Accurate
and
data.
stories.
And
Stories.
stories.
So the story in particular that stuck out to me,
Right.
because I'm from the Gambia. We didn't talk about it.
Oh yeah. All right. So we didn't
I'm
do
from
that.
the Gambia. I'm also in the diaspora. I live in Washington, D.C. But one of the things that stood out for me in Washington, D.C., we have people come to visit.
Yeah.
And there are two things that stood out. So Achaleke, who's chairman of McKinsey,
Yeah.
wrote a book called The Africa Business Revolution.
Africa business.
If you have not read this book,
Right.
you are in the diaspora, or you know people in the diaspora, do yourself a favor and buy that book. Okay?
Awesome. That's a must-read book
It's a
recommendation.
must read because of how accurate it is. So McKinsey went out and over thousands of consulting engagements, came back and tried to dissect, if you're going to be successful in Africa, what's the formula? There's no clean formula across industries,
Yeah.
but some organizations, some leaders have done it better than others.
That's right.
So a simple story that I picked out from that book, they asked, how many billion-dollar revenue-generating organizations exist in Africa?
Say that again. How many?
How many companies exist in Africa that make $1 billion in revenue, or for my European friends, turnover every single year?
Hold on, hold that, pause that thought for a second. So if you're watching live, I would like you to answer that question. How many companies in Africa do you believe turn over $1 billion
Yes.
in revenue every single year?
Yes.
And what's that book you're recommending for people to read? Just give it again, just make sure everybody
The
got
Africa Business Revolution by
Yeah.
Achaleke.
that. Okay, superb.
So we'll answer that question as we look at the stream. But what occurred to me is that Acha and people like him, there are many people out there telling different stories about Africa.
Yeah.
When Acha came to Washington, D.C., I went to the Brookings Institute And the Brookings Institute has a great program focused on Africa.
Yeah.
And talking about what does investment look like in Africa. One of my classmates from college, Brahima Koulibaly, runs that initiative. And it is so fascinating to see him bring leaders from, again, industry, leaders from government, students. I find that if you have those three constituents talking together, there are wonderful things that come out.
Yeah.
But going back to diaspora, it's data and it's stories. The diaspora needs to hear different stories than what's being spent.
Yeah.
Because if we listen to the mainstream media talk about Africa, it's the usual.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The Lion King is out again. Great, let's go on safari, right? Fantastic. There's another starving child out here. People died over there, right?
Yeah.
You don't hear about these creative entrepreneurs. You don't hear about these schools doing really cutting edge work, right?
Yeah.
You don't hear about how Africa has some of the most advanced mobile payment systems in the world, right?
That's right.
Because they had to leapfrog that. Those are stories that need to be told to the diaspora.
Yeah.
On the flip side, what we notice here is companies aren't telling their own stories.
Yeah.
Financial institutions that are about to experience 5x growth are not telling that story. Students who have the skills to be able to do this, who are doing side hustles, right?
Yeah,
Make
yeah.
Uber drivers in the US look like they're lazy.
Right.
Because they have such entrepreneurial spirit, but they don't understand where they should tell the story, who they should tell that story to. And those are the things that I see in Rwanda are huge opportunities that people's eyes are starting to get open to.
So the African story is not being told. The African story, if it is being told, is not complete.
Not complete. No. No.
And there's a need for people who are both here
Yes.
and in the diaspora to
Yes.
be telling a different
To
story,
be telling a different story. Yes.
educating the world.
Yes.
Mainstream media is not talking about the opportunities. Mainstream media is selling the negatives.
Yeah.
Wow. What's the one positive thing? Or in fact, let me change that question.
Sure.
If you had to bring your family back here to Rwanda, what would be the one thing that would make you bring your family to Rwanda?
I'm trying to figure out how to put it in one word, and I don't think I actually can.
Maybe not one word.
I think there are two things that really stood out for me. Safety.
Safety number one.
It's important if you're going to build anything worthwhile that you feel safe.
Yeah.
I have 3 children.
Yeah.
I want them to feel safe. I want them in an environment they can feel safe. You can literally walk any street here and feel safe.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You know, as we were driving around town, some of the people who lived here were telling us about the rights that women have in this country, for example.
Yeah.
And it was fascinating, right? That there are severe consequences for doing bad things and making people who are in underrepresented communities not feel welcome.
Yeah,
There is
yeah.
clear punishment. And guess what? That reduces the rate of that.
Yeah.
The other thing that I would say is diversity.
Yeah.
I was really impressed at all the organizations we looked at the gender balance.
Yeah.
Even when we were taking pictures with these organizations. I remember being at one university, all the men were sitting in front, and all of a sudden we all realized we were doing wrong.
Yeah.
But half of the population were strong, independent women who were making a difference.
Yeah.
And that is not something I've seen in all parts of Africa. In fact, in all parts of the world.
Wow. So diversity and safety.
Those are two
From a
things that
personal perspective, that's what we
Yes.
bring you back here.
Yes.
I'm going back to your question because I don't want people to think I've forgotten it, but we talked about the opportunity that exists not only in Rwanda but in Africa. And you had talked about how you read a really great book which asked the question, or at least which tried to highlight why certain companies are more successful.
Yeah.
And just now on the stream we talked about how many African businesses do you believe turn over $1 billion on an annual basis? I put that question out. There's a couple of questions, answers coming through the stream. Give us the answer.
400.
400.
400. 400.
$1 billion organizations in Africa.
$1 billion in revenue in Africa. And not just in one industry, not just oil, spanning a variety of industries from financial services to tech, all kinds of industries.
Wow.
And it was eye-opening to see this.
Yeah.
And this is a reality of our time.
I love that. So if there were anchor points, and I like to have 3 anchor points around really how you can take what we're seeing now and take it forward and make it sustainable and make a country successful. If there were 3 anchor points for Rwanda, what would those be for you?
I think the first anchor point, going back to stories and data, data.
Yeah.
Right? Too often people make country-changing decisions without accurate information.
Okay.
And having access to accurately understand, for example, where's your workforce?
Yeah.
What skills are being developed by that workforce? What shortages do you have? Again, as a governmental institution, that's something that I think this country is trying to figure out.
Right.
And I'll be selfish for a minute. I'm going to tie it back to LinkedIn.
Yeah, yeah.
Because one of the reasons I joined LinkedIn is to build out something that we call the economic graph.
What is the economic graph?
The economic graph is simply a digital representation of the entire global economy. And
Entire global economy.
the entire global economy.
Right.
So our vision in LinkedIn is to create economic opportunity for every member of the workforce.
Okay.
Every member.
Every member.
Woman, tall, short, black, wherever you live. Every member.
White collar, blue collar.
White collar, blue collar.
All right.
And we created a graph that every day that we come into work helps bring this to life.
Okay.
But the graph will include every single member of this workforce globally. It will include every organization, company, institution that's out there, all the jobs that are out there, the skills that are necessary, the schools, and the content that's out there.
Okay.
Those 6 nodes bring you a lot of visibility into where your workforce is, where your workforce isn't, as an institution that drives policy. The other thing that can do is, for organizations who are looking for talent, demystify how hard it is to find that talent.
Yeah.
You can literally go into a platform like ours and say, how many members of the diaspora are from my country that live in Canada? Because I'm about to go to a conference in Canada and present.
Yeah.
You can literally not only find all those people, but then put the story that they need to hear and drive them to where they need to go. That's a simple story in terms of tying that together.
I like that one. So data is the first thing, like you said.
Yep.
And if this data is available to government and if this data is available to enterprises, then I guess it pays for people to be building up, for example, LinkedIn profiles so that they have a digital representation that allows people now to use this knowledge to go forward.
You raise a really, really good point.
Right.
You cannot tell a story without being on a platform that allows you to amplify your voice.
Say that again, they gotta hear this.
You cannot tell a story without being on a platform that allows you to amplify your voice.
Okay.
I think too often, what we do in real life, we tend to forget that that's the same thing that in a digital world works. If I want to find career advancement, if I want to find knowledge, the simple way of doing it is asking people who've already done it.
Yeah.
We do that in real life.
Yeah.
I have 3 kids. Sometimes my kids drive me crazy. Not all the time, but sometimes they do, right?
I love that, yeah.
How nice would it be to just have a conversation with another parent who's figured out one small nuance that allows me to defuse bombs with my kids, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, we now are in a connected world where everybody has a smartphone.
Yeah.
I can get parental advice from Guangzhou to Australia to here. And that's immediate. The challenge we have is we need more people on platforms like LinkedIn to be able to tell the story to the globe. And they own the story. That's the difference now. In the past, very few institutions own the story and told the story. We now live in a real world that is fast, where people can tell exactly the story they want to who they want. And what we need is to activate those stories and activate those individuals to be able to get there.
Tell your story, Africa. It's time to shine. So
Time
that's right, man.
Yes.
Time to shine as an individual, time to shine as an organization, and ultimately as a continent. I asked for 3 pillars. We've talked about the first one, which sounds to be a combination of data and technology as a holistic.
Absolutely.
The second anchor point that's going to take us from where we are to blast off into the future.
It's going to have to be automation.
Yeah.
We cannot manually, we don't have enough hours in the day, we don't have enough capacity as human beings to be able to make this happen one to one to one. We need to be able to scale.
Yeah.
So let's go back to some of these challenges we talked about, right?
Right.
If I'm a student, I can't afford to basically go out to every single employer and knock on doors. Those days are gone, right?
Yeah.
What I can do, however, is figure out, once I tell my story, who should hear it, who am I closely related to, and then do my research to find, for example, the 10 organizations that best fit me.
Yeah.
And then actively go after those people, right?
Yeah.
On the employer front, so we met a lot of organizations here that have roles that are keeping them up at night.
What kind of roles are keeping them up at night? What are some of the roles? Because again, my
Yes.
community is
Yes.
always interested in
Yeah.
what jobs and opportunities exist here. What
Yeah.
kind of roles are they looking for?
They run the gamut.
Right.
You'll hear a lot about tech, right?
Yeah.
Information technology is huge.
Yeah.
If I'm at a bank right now and I'm trying to enroll a digital transformation,
Right.
I need people who are severely experienced in that digital transformation to
Yeah.
come work on that now. And I
Right.
need them to pass on that knowledge. That is a big sector.
All right. So if you're coming from the outside,
Yep.
part of the objective of bringing you into the country to address some of these challenges is the skills transfer.
skills transfer,
All
absolutely.
right, got that. More specific, what jobs were they telling you that they're trying to hire for? Is it BI? Is it data analyst? What kind of jobs?
All of them. All of them. All of them.
Wow.
Right? Because think about this. If you're going to have 5x growth, how are you going to do it? You're going to need to invest in technology platforms. You're going to need people to design the technology, people to implement the technology, and then people to transform it into human.
Okay.
What does it mean? What are the business impacts?
Right.
How are we going to move this forward, right? Those are all big. There was another company that talked about, well, we have new products that we're going to launch. How do we translate pricing and how do we derive bundles that people are going to be able to absorb in a simple manner?
Yeah.
Different skill set, right?
Different skill set. Yeah.
What's interesting about what the governments are trying to do right now is they're trying to figure out what skill sets are in huge supply,
Yeah.
which skill sets are not, and then how do we help schools and organizations understand so we can replenish these if we don't have them,
Yeah.
but more importantly, build them if we don't, right?
So that's a change of curriculum right there.
It's a change of curriculum, it's a change of approach, and it requires you to be nimble. Because if you have a surplus of a skill that nobody wants, guess what's going to happen?
Yeah.
Youth unemployment, and we see that across the continent.
Yeah. I think the other thing that I got from some of those conversations is the
Yeah.
whole fact that unlike other African countries, it's not all central. It's not all based in the capital.
Absolutely right.
There's
Yes.
a big drive around
Yes.
spreading this knowledge, spreading
Yes.
this economic opportunity
Yes.
across the rest of the country.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that was the second pillar. The very last pillar that you would say would drive us into success.
Again, I think it has to be the story.
Yeah.
I think that's what it comes down to, okay?
Yeah.
If you have the direction and you know what skills are in surplus, what skills are not, you have a very accurate representation of the diaspora, you have a very accurate representation where your economy is going, then you have to automate how these points of friction connect. How employers connect to students, how students connect to employers, how government attracts investment, how they work together, they hold hands, right? But the last piece comes down to the story, right? It comes down to students being able to tell the story they need to tell to get that job that allows them to feed their family and allows their family to have access to do different things and get more educated. Or it goes back to the employer that right now is competing not just here, but they're competing against other countries in Eastern Africa. Or they're grabbing talent from India, they're grabbing talent from Europe to be able to fulfill what they need to do now.
Yeah.
And the stakes are high for companies who don't do this, right?
Yeah,
For companies who cannot get this talent, you're talking about half the growth that you need to be able to get there.
Right.
And I think we tend to underestimate the power of story in terms of helping us move the needle
Yeah.
and connect as human beings to these big audacious goals.
Yeah.
People need that story to be able to feel like they're part of that big audacious goal
Yeah.
and then to execute.
Execution is absolutely important, especially when the true north has been told.
Yes.
Everybody knows what we're aiming for.
Yes.
But
Yes.
what is execution? What is having a goal without the execution?
It's a dream.
It's just a dream.
It's a dream.
It's a dream. So
Yeah.
we gotta bring it to life. And with that, unfortunately, we've run out of time for this live stream to continue with questions. But in summary, there's been some amazing opportunities we've observed here. Opportunities not only for the local people to grow and build the right skills, opportunities for the diaspora to come back, invest, partner, and give back.
Absolutely.
Actually, I want to take that expression back. I want to take that expression. I don't believe in giving back because you never took anything in the first place. I believe in giving. What have you given Rwanda in this visit?
Perspective.
Yeah.
I would say two. One is personal perspective.
Right.
I'm from the smallest country in Africa, the Gambia. We're small but mighty. But being able to see what we do in Gambia, what we do in Senegal versus what we do over here, being able to see best practices, that's the other thing that's really important. This knowledge share that goes across all these different nodes from diaspora to here, that is the liquid that allows this execution to work.
Yeah.
And part of what I was able to do was share stories.
Yeah.
Stories from amazing clients I work with in the United States
Yeah.
to here.
Right.
And what I'll be able to do from what I've learned here is tell those stories to those organizations also. And it's funny what happens when you start sharing those stories, to start seeing dots that you would never have connected.
Yeah.
And not even understand that people who have been to Rwanda are people that you're working with now.
Yeah.
And being able to tell the story of Rwanda, Rwanda has a phenomenal story to tell. This is one of the most impressive countries that I've been to. I've traveled to quite a few in this world.
Right.
But I am leaving with a sense of hope, a sense of really light, because this country is figuring out how to move in hyperspeed.
Yeah.
What I just hope is that we're all part of the process to help this country achieve what it needs to do.
Love it, love
Thank
it,
you.
love it. Thank you very much for joining us. If you are streaming, thank you very much for some of the questions that you posed before we got started on this. We wish we had more time to take on these conversations, but there will be other instances when we bring to you some of the insights and observations we've had around the economies that we travel into. Rwanda has been phenomenal. It has been exciting. It's been exhilarating, to say the least, to watch how institutions that normally don't work together are coming together on a common goal to transform the future. Not only just the immediate, the future.
That's right.
That's what the focus has been.
That's right.
Any last words for the audience before we cut out on this?
Keep listening. This guy has some great ideas. Put me on the spot a few times. Give it forward.
Yeah.
Give it forward. All right. You guys are here on this stream because you actually have a lot to offer. I would say the big word that comes out to me is serve it. We all have the opportunity to develop knowledge. We all have the opportunity to develop skills. It is worthless if we keep it to ourselves. Let's serve, let's share, and let's all be part of the journey.
That's right. Let's educate. Let's empower each other.
Yeah.
Love it. Thanks a
pleasure,
lot for
Stuart.
your time.
Thank you so much.
Online audience, I wish you a fabulous day, a productive day, and of course, a rest-filled weekend. And then I'll catch up with you next week. Thanks a lot for the comments. Thanks a lot for challenging us every single time to get you more education, to get you more insights, to get you to see what we're experiencing as we have these opportunities. Thank you. Have a good Friday.
Cheers.